Today we are talking about something very simple, which is fairness. Right now in Tennessee, working families pay taxes every time they buy groceries, but many billion-dollar corporations operating in our state pay little to no corporate taxes. And that's backwards. If you look at the data from this beautiful St. Louis Federal Reserve graph, the chart behind me, food prices have risen dramatically since 2020. It is now 2026. The Consumer Price Index for food and beverages shows grocery prices climbing steadily over the past 5 years. Families are paying more for milk, eggs, bread, and baby formula than they were just a few years ago. And on top of those rising prices, Tennessee still charges 4% tax on groceries, one of the highest grocery taxes in the country. Meanwhile, the data from our own Department of Revenue, which you are holding in your hands, tells a very different story about corporate taxes. Between 2019 and 2022, 63% of corporations paid zero in excise tax, and only 40% paid the $100 minimum of the franchise tax. That means thousands of corporations, including some of the most profitable, those reporting over $1 billion of federal taxable income, are paying less to support our state than the families standing in line at the grocery store. Our legislation fixes that. The End the Grocery Tax by Closing Corporate Loopholes Act eliminates the grocery tax and replaces that revenue responsibly. We do it by closing corporate tax loopholes that allow multinational corporations to shift profits to offshore tax havens, and by establishing a minimum tax for the most profitable corporations operating in Tennessee. In other words, if a corporation is making billions of dollars while operating here, it should contribute something to our state where it does business. Now, here's the difference between our proposal and the proposals that we've seen from the Republican supermajority. Several Republican bills claim they want to eliminate the grocery tax, but none of them include a plan to replace the $800 million in revenue that the tax currently generates. Removing $800 million from the state budget without replacing it means one thing: cuts. Cuts to schools, cuts to healthcare, cuts to infrastructure, cuts to public safety. It's not responsible tax policy, and our bill does something different. It gives working families relief at the checkout line without gutting the services communities rely on. For years, the legislature has prioritized corporate tax breaks while Tennesseans kept paying one of the highest grocery taxes in the country. We are offering a different path. We end the grocery tax by closing the corporate loopholes and making billion-dollar corporations, most of which are multinational companies that aren't even headquartered in Tennessee, pay their fair share. And that is what responsible leadership looks like. And with that, I'll take questions.
How much is the fair share? Like, how much percentage-wise?
Fair share.
Like, what percentage of taxes would you want those businesses to be paying? Does that make sense?
Well, we want right now, the companies that have been able to lobby themselves out of tax existence, like Amazon and FedEx. I mean, FedEx is a great example. Our tax code is basically 13 FedEx subsidiaries in a trench coat. All of these subsidiaries are removing themselves out of paying taxes, and therefore what we're saying is, hey, what if we all classified that under one company, right, and then tax them at that percent? There's tons of companies that are not paying right now, and so all we're saying is close those loopholes so that these corporations, as mandated in law, pay what they owe. And you will have that, and I think it's important to note that, and once again, the way we're going to pay for it is through, it's very nerdy, but worldwide combined reporting and a corporate minimum tax. Both of those things have been instituted in states like Texas, other conservative supermajority states, and I think it's a lack of radical imagination as to what's possible. You are looking at a report that shows from our own state data that these companies are not paying, whereas if you ask Republican leadership, there are no loopholes. Well, the Tennessee Department of Revenue disagrees. The proposals we've seen from the Republicans, they are just tax cuts in nature, but as you all know, it is a tough budget year. That is by their own device. However, we need to get serious. They have cosplayed like they are ending the grocery tax. They ran on it last election cycle. I'm sure they'll be running on it again. And there's only so many years that Tennessee voters will give them until they actually do it. And I think we're at a breaking point for that. So our message is get serious about ending the grocery tax.
What makes you hopeful that this year will be different?
Great question, Dryden. Well, I think Tennessee voters want it. I mean, we have now been organizing around ending the grocery tax for 3 years. We forced Republican leadership to file their own bill to end the grocery tax, except theirs is not a responsible one. And Tennesseans already are feeling the impact of not only the federal funding cuts, but cuts to SNAP. You look around anytime you drive on the roads, you just see that our infrastructure is crumbling and they don't have a way to address any of the needs right now. So our proposal is saying, hey, you want a creative funding stream? Here it is. It's not so creative. You just close the loopholes that you created by allowing these multinational companies to tax themselves out of existence.
Have any Republicans been open to any amendments to their bills that would replace that $800,000 gap?
No, and they're not serious. I mean, they're not serious about, and independent of this, throughout with my entire legislative portfolio, I always have a pay for mechanism. I mean, our universal pre-K bill expands universal pre-K by taxing big tech, of which Google and Amazon pay zero in taxes in Tennessee, or end the grocery tax, legalizing pot, right, to fill our infrastructure backlog. They're not serious about addressing the concerns and real compounded crises that we are facing as a state. And many of their members have filed their own grocery tax bills because they realize that this is a winning issue in their district. They want to see movement. And unfortunately, I haven't seen the movement that we need to get this thing across the line.
And one follow-up to that, the taxes that you were planning to implement, would that just fill that $800K gap, or are you planning?
And once again, it's no new taxes. No new taxes. So we are closing loopholes, of which Tennessee has in our tax code is saying this amount, whatever these corporations raise, however much their net worth is, they pay taxes. The biggest companies up here have removed themselves from paying taxes because they pay lobbyists to do that, right? Whereas my small business owners in my districts, the ones that own restaurants, the ones that own, they are no match for the lobbying muscle and capacity up here because, as I have said, Tennessee is bought and sold by corporate lobbyists. And this is a direct example, I think, is an example of that, at least this corporate loophole report. So our bill, if we implemented worldwide combined reporting, once again, it's just a creative way to do accounting. I have the numbers right here. So worldwide combined reporting would generate, so it would bring back 300 to 450 million, a corporate minimum tax, 350 to 450 million, which would give us $900 million annually, which is enough to eliminate the 4% tax on groceries at the state level. Okay, is that it? All right, hold this close to your heart. Hold the report close to your heart. Dream about it. Think about it at night.
I do have one more.
Yeah.
I know, so this does not target your mom and pop grocers. This is
No, and that's a narrative that they will try to spin. No, this is targeting the largest, most profitable companies that have weaseled their way out of paying taxes. And unfortunately, I mean, the biggest, I think, example of this was the franchise tax cut 2 years ago, where they handed over $2 billion, now $2 billion, and I think ascending, of our tax dollars to multinational corporations that aren't even headquartered here. So it's a matter of priorities. There is money if they want to make things right for working families. And, I look forward to seeing them do it because they need to get serious and end the tax. All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you for keeping the drumbeat on this. And Senator